My mother stood on my front porch, gripping a leather folder so tightly her knuckles had turned white. "You owe this family," she said, her voice trembling with forced confidence. "We sacrificed everything to raise you. It's time you paid us back." Behind her stood my older brother, my aunt, 2 cousins, and even my grandmother, people who hadn't spoken a single word to me in 9 years. Not one birthday, not one Christmas, not one phone call, nothing. Yet there they were, standing outside the home they once said I'd never deserve, staring at the luxury cars in the driveway and the ocean stretching behind our house. My husband quietly opened the front door beside me. The moment my mother saw him, her smile disappeared. She still couldn't even look him in the eyes. After everything, after 9 years, after all the pain they caused, she still acted like he was the problem. My brother cleared his throat. "We're family," he said. "Let's not make this difficult." I almost laughed. Family. That word hadn't meant anything to them since the day I fell in love with Marcus. My mother slid several papers toward me. "We've already spoken to an attorney. We think it's only fair that you help everyone." I looked down. They had already divided our money, my husband's money. $44 million from the company Marcus had spent nearly a decade building. My aunt had listed the house she wanted. My brother wanted enough to start fresh. My cousins wanted business investments. Even my grandmother had written down how much she expected every month. No one had apologized. Not one sentence. Not 1 ounce of regret. Just demands. Marcus gently placed a hand on my shoulder. He didn't say a word. He never needed to. I looked back at my mother. Then I quietly smiled. "I'm sorry," I said. "You've mistaken me for the daughter you abandoned." The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the waves crashing behind our house. My mother's mouth opened. Nothing came out. That was the moment she realized 9 years of silence had a price. But that's not where this story began. 3 months earlier, 9 years ago, I made the simplest decision of my life. I chose love. Marcus and I met while volunteering at a community literacy program. He was kind without trying to impress anyone. He listened more than he talked. He treated everyone with respect, whether they were the director or a child struggling to read. I fell in love with his character long before anything else. When I told my family I was dating him, everything changed. My mother didn't ask what he was like. She asked one question: "He's black?" When I nodded, she looked at me as though I'd confessed to a crime. Dad didn't yell. His disappointment somehow hurt even more. My brother laughed. "So this is your rebellion phase?" Every family dinner became an interrogation. They questioned Marcus's education, his intentions, his family, his future. None of it was based on facts. Only prejudice. Marcus never responded with anger. If they ever want to know me, he'd say, "I'll be here." They never did. When we announced our engagement, my mother cried. Not tears of happiness, tears of embarrassment. "What will people think?" she whispered, as if strangers mattered more than her own daughter. The wedding invitations came back unopened. Every single one. None of my immediate family attended. I walked down the aisle holding my grandfather's old pocket watch instead of my father's arm. Marcus squeezed my hand. "You still have me." That was enough. Or at least I told myself it was. Life wasn't easy after that. Marcus had quit a comfortable corporate job to build a software company focused on helping small businesses manage inventory. Everyone told him it would fail, including my family. When they occasionally heard news through relatives, they mocked him. "Still pretending to be an entrepreneur? Tell him to get a real job. He'll drag you into bankruptcy." I worked 2 jobs while Marcus coded late into the night. Some months we worried about paying rent. Other months we celebrated because we could finally afford groceries without checking every price tag. We never blamed each other. Every setback only strengthened us. Marcus kept saying the same thing. "We're building something bigger than money." I believed him. Still, there were moments when the loneliness hurt. Birthdays passed without messages. My mother ignored every holiday card I mailed. When my father was hospitalized for a minor surgery, I visited. He refused to see me. The nurse quietly apologized on his behalf. I smiled and left. Some wounds can't be forced to heal. Years passed. Marcus hired his first employee, then 5, then 20, then 100. Our software quietly spread across the country. Customers recommended it because it actually solved problems. Investors started calling. Marcus turned down several offers. "They're thinking short-term," he told me. "We're thinking decades." That detail matters later. One afternoon, an investment banker visited our office. He spoke about taking the company public. The numbers sounded unreal. Marcus listened politely, then asked a single question. Will this help our employees? The banker blinked. He clearly expected questions about yachts, not people. That answer reminded me why I'd married him. Months later, preparations began. Lawyers, auditors, financial reviews. Everything became confidential. Even close friends didn't know what was happening. Meanwhile, my family remained silent, not because they had forgiven us, because they still didn't care, or so I thought. Then everything changed. The company officially went public on a Tuesday morning. By lunchtime, financial news outlets were everywhere. Employees cried, some became millionaires overnight. Marcus stood in the middle of the celebration, thanking every single person by name. While reporters surrounded him, he looked across the room at me. None of this had changed him. It simply revealed who he'd always been. That afternoon my phone exploded. Unknown numbers, old relatives, former classmates, people who hadn't spoken to me in years suddenly remembered my name. Then came the first text from my mother. We need to talk. 9 years. Those were her first words. Not congratulations. Not I'm sorry. Not I miss you. Just, we need to talk. I didn't answer. The messages became more desperate. Voicemails followed. My brother suddenly wanted to reconnect. An aunt claimed she'd always supported us. Even relatives who skipped our wedding began posting childhood photos online, pretending we'd always been close. The performance was almost impressive. Marcus asked if I wanted to respond. I shook my head. If they truly wanted me back, they knew where I lived all these years. Weeks later, they finally came. Not with flowers, not with apologies, with demands. Back on my front porch, my mother insisted we had become selfish. You have more than enough. My brother nodded. Family shares wealth. I stared at them. Did family share my tears when you abandoned me? Nobody answered. I looked at my grandmother. She lowered her eyes. Then I opened the leather folder. Inside were handwritten calculations, showing exactly how they planned to divide $44 million. They had spent more time planning our money than repairing our relationship. That was their biggest mistake. I quietly closed the folder. Then I reached into a drawer beside the entrance. Everyone watched. I removed another folder. Inside were copies of every letter I'd mailed over 9 years. Every birthday card returned unopened. Every Christmas invitation ignored. Every message asking for reconciliation. Stamped, dated, documented. I handed them to my mother. She flipped through them. Her face slowly drained of color. I kept trying, I said softly. You stopped being my family long before we became wealthy. Nobody spoke. Marcus remained beside me, calm, silent, strong. Then I said the words I'd carried inside me for nearly a decade. You rejected him because of the color of his skin. You rejected me because I refused to share your prejudice. You don't get to reject our lives, then claim our success. Tears filled my mother's eyes. For the first time, they weren't tears of anger. They were regret. Real regret. I made a mistake, she whispered. I nodded. I know. Another long silence settled over us. Then she asked quietly, Is there any way to fix this? I took a deep breath. You can't buy back 9 years. You can't erase what happened. You can't pretend love existed only after money arrived. But if you're asking whether forgiveness is possible, I looked at Marcus. He smiled gently. Then maybe. But forgiveness is free. Our bank account isn't. No one argued. No one demanded another dollar. They slowly turned and walked away. Months later, my mother wrote me a handwritten letter. No requests, no excuses. Just accountability. Healing didn't happen overnight. Some relationships never fully recovered. Others slowly began again. This time built on honesty instead of entitlement. Marcus continued growing the company. We funded scholarships for students from disadvantaged communities. We invested in minority-owned startups. We created charitable programs that helped families facing discrimination. The greatest revenge wasn't becoming wealthy. It was refusing to become bitter. Because money can change your address. Character changes your legacy. Today, when people ask Marcus how he stayed so calm through everything, he always gives the same answer. They judged me before they knew me. I wasn't responsible for changing their minds. I was responsible for protecting my peace. Watching him live that truth every day remains the greatest blessing of my life. And if my story teaches anything, it's this. Never measure someone's worth by the prejudice in your own heart. One day, you may discover the person you rejected was the greatest blessing you were ever offered.